What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in an old drawer, forgotten piggy bank, or dusty coin collection could be worth far more than 25 cents? Imagine finding a coin that millions of people have handled over the decades, only to discover that certain versions have become highly sought-after treasures among collectors. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1960 Washington quarter, a coin that may not be a cryptocurrency at all, but has generated excitement, speculation, and treasure-hunting dreams that rival some of the biggest investment crazes in history. Picture this. It's 1960. America is entering a new decade filled with optimism, innovation, and change. The Washington quarter has already been circulating for nearly 3 decades, becoming one of the most recognizable coins in the United States. Most people spend it without a second thought. It buys everyday items, passes through cash registers, and moves from hand to hand across the country. But decades later, collectors begin paying close attention to certain 1960 quarters, especially those with unique characteristics, exceptional condition, or rare minting variations. The 1960 Washington quarter is part of a series first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin features Washington's portrait on the front and an eagle on the reverse. Unlike modern quarters made with a copper-nickel composition, the 1960 quarter contains 90% silver. That fact alone immediately gives it intrinsic value beyond its face value. Now, you might be wondering, what problem does this coin solve? After all, it's not a blockchain project, it doesn't run smart contracts, and it certainly doesn't power a decentralized network. But in the world of collectibles and precious metals, the 1960 Washington quarter solves a different kind of problem. It represents a tangible store of value. While digital assets exist only in electronic form, a silver quarter is something you can physically hold. During periods of inflation, economic uncertainty, or market volatility, many investors and collectors look toward hard assets like silver coins as a way to preserve wealth. Think about it this way. If someone had saved a handful of silver quarters decades ago instead of spending them, those coins would likely be worth significantly more today than their original face value. The silver content alone provides a foundation of value, while collector demand can push certain examples much higher. What makes the 1960 Washington quarter particularly interesting is the combination of precious metal content, historical significance, and collectible appeal. Every coin tells a story. This quarter traveled through a different America, an America before smartphones, before the internet, and before digital payments became common. Each scratch, mark, and sign of wear reflects decades of history. When collectors discuss the technology behind a coin like this, they're really talking about minting technology. In 1960, the United States Mint used sophisticated coin production methods for its era, striking millions of quarters with remarkable consistency. Coins were produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Some examples feature proof finishes created specifically for collectors. These proof coins display sharp details and mirror-like surfaces that make them especially desirable. The real excitement often comes from varieties and errors. Coin collectors love discovering differences that set one coin apart from another. A tiny variation in a die, an unusual strike, or a manufacturing anomaly can transform an ordinary-looking quarter into a highly sought-after collectible. That's one reason why people continue searching through old collections and inherited coin jars. The possibility of finding something special keeps the hunt alive. Behind every great collectible is a fascinating background story, and the 1960 Washington quarter is no exception. It comes from a period when silver was still a standard component of American coinage. Just a few years later, rising silver prices would lead to major changes in U.S. coins. By 1965, the United States began moving away from silver in circulating quarters. That means the 1960 quarter belongs to a shrinking era of American monetary history. The team behind the coin includes the artists, engravers, and mint officials responsible for producing U.S. coinage. George Washington's portrait was created based on earlier artistic works, while the overall design reflected a desire to honor one of America's most important historical figures. Unlike modern cryptocurrency projects led by developers and founders, this coin was created by one of the most established institutions in the world, the United States Mint. Let's talk about performance and growth potential because this is where things become really interesting. Most circulated 1960 quarters are not worth a fortune. However, their silver content ensures they typically trade above face value. Meanwhile, high-grade examples, especially those certified by professional grading services, can command significantly higher prices. Certain proof coins and exceptionally preserved specimens may sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity, condition, and market demand. Imagine two identical quarters produced in the same year. One spends decades circulating through stores, vending machines, and cash registers. The other is carefully preserved, protected from wear, and stored safely for generations. Today, those two coins may have dramatically different values. Condition matters enormously in the coin collecting world. This creates a fascinating dynamic. Collectors aren't simply buying metal. They're buying rarity, preservation, history, and the story behind a specific piece of American currency. That's why some collectors spend years searching for the finest known examples. So why are people still talking about the 1960 Washington quarter? Part of the answer lies in the growing popularity of alternative investments. As traditional markets experience ups and downs, many people explore collectibles, precious metals, and historical artifacts. Social media has also played a major role. Videos showcasing valuable coins, hidden in everyday change, have attracted millions of views. Stories about rare quarters selling for surprising amounts of money inspire countless viewers to check their own collections. There's also a treasure hunting element that people love. Unlike many investments that require large amounts of capital, coin collecting can begin with a simple search through old family belongings. Every collector dreams of discovering a hidden gem. Maybe it's tucked away in an inherited collection. Maybe it's sitting unnoticed in a forgotten box. The possibility alone creates excitement. The emotional connection matters too. Coins are physical links to the past. They connect generations. A 1960 quarter may have been carried by a grandparent, saved by a parent, and eventually passed down to a child. That personal history often adds value beyond what any price guide can measure. But no discussion would be complete without addressing the risks and challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions in coin collecting is the belief that every old coin is automatically valuable. Age alone doesn't guarantee rarity or high prices. Many 1960 quarters were produced in large quantities. As a result, common examples are generally valued based on silver content and condition rather than extreme rarity. Counterfeits and misleading claims can also create problems. Whenever collectibles become valuable, dishonest sellers sometimes attempt to exploit inexperienced buyers. That's why serious collectors often rely on professional grading and authentication services. Knowledge becomes one of the most important tools in the hobby. Market demand can fluctuate as well. Prices rise and fall depending on collector interest, silver prices, economic conditions, and broader trends. Someone hoping for instant riches may be disappointed. Successful collectors typically view the hobby as a long-term pursuit rather than a quick profit opportunity. Looking ahead, what might the future hold for the 1960 Washington quarter? Several factors suggest continued interest. First, the number of surviving high-quality examples is limited. Every year, pristine specimens become increasingly difficult to find. Second, silver continues to attract investors who appreciate tangible assets. Third, younger generations are discovering coin collecting through online content, educational videos, and social media communities. As digital assets become more common, physical collectibles may actually gain a unique appeal. There's something powerful about holding a piece of history in your hand. No password is required. No internet connection is needed. The coin simply exists as a tangible reminder of another era. Could a 1960 Washington quarter ever reach extraordinary values? For average circulated examples, probably not. But exceptional specimens, rare varieties, and top-grade certified coins may continue attracting strong collector interest. History has repeatedly shown that rarity and demand can create remarkable outcomes in the collectibles market. The most important lesson from the story of the 1960 Washington quarter isn't necessarily about money. It's about awareness. Sometimes valuable opportunities are hidden in plain sight. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance may carry historical significance, precious metal value, and collector demand all at once. The difference between spending it and preserving it can be substantial. So the next time you come across an old coin collection, don't dismiss it as spare change. Take a closer look. Research what you have. Learn the stories behind the coins. You may discover far more than metal and numbers. You may uncover a piece of history that has survived for generations. And that's what makes the 1960 Washington quarter so fascinating. It's not a cryptocurrency. It doesn't rely on blockchain technology. Yet it captures many of the same emotions that drive modern investing. Curiosity, speculation, opportunity, and the thrill of discovery. It reminds us that value can come from history, scarcity, craftsmanship, and human fascination. If you enjoyed learning about this remarkable coin, start exploring your own collection today. Check those old jars, inherited boxes, and forgotten albums. You never know what treasure might be waiting. The next great discovery could be sitting much closer than you think, quietly holding its secrets until someone takes the time to look. What if I told you that a simple 25-cent coin sitting unnoticed in a drawer could be worth far more than its face value, and that collectors across the country are constantly searching for the right example? Most people walk past old coins every day without giving them a second thought. But hidden among ordinary pocket change and forgotten collections are pieces of history that tell incredible stories. And today, we're diving into one of those fascinating treasures, the 1961 Washington $quarter coin. Imagine opening an old box that belonged to a grandparent. Inside, you find a handful of silver coins. At first glance, they look ordinary. But then you notice a date, 1961. Suddenly, you're holding a small piece of American history that has survived more than 6 decades. The question is, what makes this coin special, and why are collectors still talking about it today? The 1961 Washington quarter is part of one of the most iconic coin series in American history. The Washington quarter first appeared in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. By 1961, the design had already become a familiar sight in American commerce. Millions of these quarters passed through cash registers, vending machines, and everyday transactions. Yet, despite being common at the time, surviving examples in excellent condition have become increasingly desirable to collectors. One of the first things that makes the 1961 Washington quarter stand out is its composition. Unlike modern quarters, which are made from a copper-nickel blend, the 1961 quarter contains 90% silver. That's right. Every genuine 1961 Washington quarter contains real silver, giving it intrinsic value beyond its face value. In a world where precious metals continue to attract investors and collectors alike, that silver content alone captures attention. Now, you might be wondering what problem a coin like this solves. After all, it isn't a cryptocurrency, it doesn't power a blockchain, and it doesn't run on advanced technology. But in a different way, it serves an important purpose. The 1961 Washington quarter represents something many people are seeking today: a tangible store of historical and precious metal value. Think about it. Digital assets exist on screens. Bank balances exist in databases. But a silver quarter from 1961 is something you can physically hold. It survived changing economies, technological revolutions, and generations of ownership. For many collectors, owning historical silver coins provides a sense of connection to the past that digital assets simply cannot replicate. When it comes to technology, the story becomes even more interesting. While this coin doesn't operate on blockchain technology, it represents some of the most advanced minting technology available during its era. The United States Mint produced these quarters with remarkable precision. Each coin features George Washington's portrait on the front and an eagle design on the reverse. The craftsmanship, engraving techniques, and production standards of the time helped create coins that could withstand decades of circulation. Collectors often pay close attention to details that casual observers might miss. Mint marks, strike quality, luster, and preservation all play major roles in determining a coin's value. A heavily worn 1961 quarter might be worth only its silver content plus a collector premium. However, a well-preserved example with exceptional eye appeal can command significantly higher prices. One particularly exciting area involves proof coins. Proof quarters from 1961 were specially manufactured for collectors using polished dies and carefully prepared planchets. These coins often display mirror-like surfaces and extraordinary detail. Because they were produced with collectors in mind, many proof examples remain in outstanding condition today. Nevertheless, the finest examples can still generate significant excitement in the numismatic community. The background behind the coin is deeply tied to the history of the United States Mint. During the early 1960s, America was entering a transformative period. The space race was heating up. Technology was advancing rapidly. Society was changing. Yet throughout all these developments, silver coins like the 1961 quarter continued circulating throughout everyday American life. Millions of Americans used these coins without realizing that only a few years later, silver would begin disappearing from circulating U.S. coinage. By 1965, the United States shifted away from the traditional 90% silver composition for quarters. As a result, every 1961 quarter represents part of the final era of regular silver circulation coinage in America. Now let's talk about market performance and growth potential, because this is where many collectors become especially interested. The value of a 1961 Washington quarter depends on several factors. Condition is perhaps the most important. Coins graded in lower circulated conditions typically remain affordable, making them accessible to beginners. On the other hand, high-grade uncirculated examples can become much more valuable. Professional grading services evaluate coins using detailed standards. A difference of just 1 or 2 grading points can dramatically affect market value. That's why collectors carefully examine surfaces, luster, strike quality, and overall preservation. Silver prices also play an important role. Since the coin contains silver, fluctuations in precious metal markets directly influence its baseline value. When silver prices rise, the intrinsic value of silver quarters tends to increase as well. This creates an interesting dynamic where collectors benefit from both numismatic demand and precious metal demand. So why are people talking about the 1961 Washington quarter today? The answer comes down to a combination of nostalgia, scarcity in top condition, and growing interest in tangible assets. In recent years, many people have become fascinated by collectibles. Trading cards, vintage toys, comic books, and rare coins have all experienced renewed attention. Coins offer a unique advantage because they combine history, artistry, and precious metal content in a single collectible item. Social media has also played a role. Videos showing valuable coins discovered in pocket change or old collections have attracted millions of views. Stories of people finding rare coins worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars create excitement and curiosity. As a result, more people are examining old coin jars and inherited collections than ever before. There's also a psychological aspect. Holding a coin that has existed since 1961 creates a connection across generations. Think about everything that has happened since that year. Presidents have come and gone. Technologies have transformed daily life. Entire industries have emerged. Yet this small silver coin remains, carrying its story through time. Of course, every collectible market comes with risks and challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions is that every old coin is automatically valuable. Age alone does not guarantee rarity or high prices. The 1961 quarter was produced in substantial numbers, meaning many examples still exist today. Condition remains critical. A worn coin may not command a significant premium beyond its silver value. Collectors must also be cautious about cleaning coins. Many beginners make the mistake of polishing old coins to make them look better. Ironically, cleaning often reduces collector value because it alters the original surface. Counterfeits and misrepresentations can also present challenges. While counterfeit 1961 quarters are not among the most common fake coins, buyers should always purchase valuable examples from reputable dealers or seek professional authentication when appropriate. Market fluctuations represent another consideration. Coin values can rise and fall depending on collector demand, economic conditions, and precious metal prices. Like any collectible or investment-related asset, there are no guarantees. Looking ahead, what does the future hold for the 1961 Washington quarter? Many experts believe that interest in historic silver coinage will remain strong. Younger generations are increasingly discovering coin collecting through online platforms and educational content. At the same time, the supply of high-grade examples remains limited because pristine coins become harder to find as decades pass. The historical significance of pre-1965 silver coinage may continue attracting both collectors and precious metal enthusiasts. As more people seek tangible assets with real-world history, coins like the 1961 Washington quarter could maintain their appeal. There is also the possibility that future generations will view these coins as important artifacts from a disappearing monetary era. After all, modern circulation coins no longer contain silver. Every surviving 1961 quarter represents a link to a different chapter of American economic history. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who has never examined a coin beyond its face value, the 1961 Washington quarter offers a fascinating journey into history, craftsmanship, and value. It reminds us that extraordinary stories can hide inside ordinary objects. The next time you come across an old coin collection, don't dismiss it as spare change. Take a closer look. Examine the dates. Research the details. You never know what piece of history might be sitting right in front of you. The 1961 Washington quarter is more than a 25-cent coin. It's a survivor from another era, a silver relic of American history, and a collectible that continues to capture the imagination of enthusiasts around the world. And that brings us to the big question. Do you already own one without realizing it? Check your coin jars, family collections, and inherited keepsakes. You might be surprised by what you find. If you enjoyed learning about the 1961 Washington quarter, keep exploring the world of rare coins because some of the most fascinating treasures aren't hidden in vaults or museums. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered.